It's Friday, the 6th of January. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel. And it's time for an update on the collision of the two EC-130 Eurocopters on the Gold Beach of Australia back on the 2nd of January. And this photograph illustrates the concept of VFR see and avoid has very serious limitations. The helicopter that this helicopter is about to collide with is hidden from the pilot's view behind the left doorpost here in the EC-130 helicopter. Let's check it out. Let's start with the Aviation Safety Network. Date 2 January 2023. Two Eurocopter EC-130B4 helicopters of SeaWorld Helicopters suffered a mid-air collision near the SeaWorld Heliport, Main Beach, Queensland. Victor Hotel X-Ray Kilo, Quebec was departing SeaWorld Heliport when it was struck by an approaching Victor Hotel X-Ray Hotel Niner, and it crashed nose down into a sandbank, and X-Ray Hotel 9 made an emergency landing on the same sandbank with severe damage to the cockpit section. 4 of the 7 occupants died and 3 received critical injuries. 5 of the 6 occupants of X-Ray Hotel 9 received minor injuries by cockpit glass debris. 1 helicopter was taking off and 1 helicopter was landing. The fatalities occurred in the helicopter that was taking off. SeaWorld Helicopters recently acquired 2 of these EC-130B Eurocopters in November. This transitioned the fleet from helicopters that were normally flown from the right seat to helicopters that are now flown from the left seat. This puts the pilot in the left seat and the collective in the left seat and gets the collective out of the way of passengers and is a better setup for sightseeing. And as you can see here, there's a pretty good sized doorpost right here on the left side of the EC-130B helicopter, which is going to be a factor in this accident. SeaWorld headquarters is located right here, south of Brisbane. Here's the spit of sand where the accident occurred. Here's the headquarters with 1 helipad here next to the parking lot, and it looks like there's 1 and 2 more helipads just to the north of the headquarters. I believe the departing helicopter was departing from this helipad here. Typically, it looks like these flights depart to the south, fly down along the coast, and then turn around and come right back. Let's look at the data here on FlightAware. This is the day of the accident flight for Victor Hotel X-Ray Kilo, Quebec, down the coast, and then a right-hand turn and back. Much of the data where the accident occurred is missing because the helicopters are flying simply too low. The altitude that they were flying at the time of the accident was estimated to be about 600 feet or 200 meters above the ground. Here's a flight from the day before where they choose to do a left-hand pattern south of the base. So what investigators will be looking at is what's the standard procedure for the pattern getting on and off of the helipads here at SeaWorld Helicopters. What's the standard comm procedures or radio procedures for the pilots to communicate amongst themselves regarding the approaches and landings at the helipads? And was there a change to operations with the new helicopters, and or was there anything different of the day of the accident regarding the landing patterns and takeoff patterns that is different from normal operations? Investigators have a lot of video evidence to process as they study this investigation, and this video shows the helicopter departing the helipad. I believe this is the helipad to the north of operations. Here's the departing helicopter. Here's the arriving helicopter. The departing helicopter is heading south, but is setting himself up for a direct conflict with the landing helicopter. The departing helicopter, that pilot is also sitting in the left seat, and he has to look across cockpit and through the roof of this helicopter in order to see the approaching helicopter. So from the departing helicopter's viewpoint, this helicopter, the arriving helicopter, is also in his blind spot. So both helicopters are operating at this point in their collective blind spots. the two helicopters continue to converge without being aware of each other's presence. By the time these two helicopters collide, the helicopter that is departing, the main rotor impacts the nose of the helicopter arriving. The main rotor and gearbox, according to the Australian Transportation Safety Board video briefing, the main gear and rotor box were ripped off of the helicopter that was taking off. That helicopter fell to the sand spit down below. The helicopter that was arriving, the glass was shattered on the nose of that aircraft, and that pilot was able to successfully make a emergency landing on the same sand spit. Recovered from the passengers of the arriving helicopter was this incredible video footage of the entire sequence. Somebody else owns this video footage. I can't play it back in video format. But looking at the still photographs from this video, we can see the approaching helicopter. I believe this is just the nose of the, correction, this is the nose of the departing helicopter, located right behind the left doorpost of this arriving helicopter. And it appears that the pilot is unaware that he's even there. Were they talking to each other over the radios? That's going to be up to investigators to find out. Were they clear as to what each other was doing? The passenger, one of the three passengers in the rear seat, notices this helicopter and begins to point it out. This passenger sees the conflict developing and needs to get a hold of the pilot's attention because he's aware that the pilot's not aware that the other helicopter's there. He gets a hold of the pilot's attention, but it's too late, and the collision occurs right then. So the argument about the pilot being distracted, well, at this point, it's much too late. There's little or nothing anybody can do at this point, as the helicopter's much too close together. Looking at the two helicopters after the crash, the main rotor is gone, the tail rotor has been separated, or tail fan, and you can see the damage to the arriving helicopter, missing the glass in the front of the helicopter. Here is the main rotor and gearbox of the departing helicopter. And another view of the damage to the arriving helicopter. Fortunately, his rotor system stayed intact, allowing him to make the emergency landing. The limitations of see and avoid are well known, and these blind spots are well known to all pilots. You can see this pilot is leaning forward, looking around his blind spot to look at his landing spot, but further behind his blind spot is located the other helicopter. And if this pen were that doorpost, and this blue toy is the other helicopter, if I get it lined up, you can see just how blind it is behind the doorpost. Even if this other helicopter moved in quite close, it is hard to see. Same problem for the departing helicopter, now looking cross cockpit for the arriving traffic. That arriving traffic is going to be right in this blind spot created by the doorpost and the roof corner of the departing helicopter. Even though he's got these overhead windows over here, it's going to be tough to see him, especially if there's a loss of situational awareness of where everybody is via radio communications and or possibly ADS-B. Are they using ADS-B down there to help them avoid each other? These are some of the things that investigators will be looking at. And finally, investigators will be looking at the frequency of operations. They've reduced the tour time on these tours down to 5 minutes. For $85, you can get a 5-minute ride, meaning these guys are just hopping back and forth, well, every 5 minutes. That is a very high tempo of operations. So the ATSB, Australian Transportation Safety Board, will get to the bottom of this in great detail. The questions they got to be asking is, what led up, what was the holes in the Swiss cheese model that led up to the loss of situational awareness of these two pilots and their relative position to each other? What's the standard operating procedure for these helicopters to come and go off of these platforms? Was there a change to these operations? Was there a change to these operations with the acquisition of these newer helicopters? And was there a change to the operation the day of the accident? Thanks so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this kind of content possible. See you here.